Hi, welcome to Karen K Reviews. Today I'm giving my thoughts on Foundation Season 2, Episode 1 in Seldon's Shadow. In this episode, Harry finds himself trapped in what he later discovers is the Prime Radiant. Gale and Salvor work to escape cynics, and Empire deals with changing political ground. This episode to me was about creating juxtapositions, which are contrasts in the mind of the viewer from what we remember from the first season and the season finale versus what has happened in the 138 years that have passed. We spent all last season following Gale and Salvor separately, but now we're seeing them together awkwardly navigating their relationship as genetically mother and daughter and their differences in perspective, which include what Salvor thought it would be like to meet Gale versus what Gale is actually like, and Salvor leaning more toward hopefulness and Gale leaning more into pessimism. Salvor has more of a sense of humor and is more emotionally expressive about their connection, while Gale is serious, rarely cracks a joke, and doesn't feel connected to Salvor yet. Salvor also had closure to some extent before she left, but Gale had none, and psychologically to them, the events that happened just prior to going into cryo sleep feel very recent. I feel like their relationship will develop into more of a sisterly bond as the season progresses. A second juxtaposition is the Cleons. The Cleons are completely different from the last ones that we saw. The last day that we saw did seem open to some differences, but the ones that this day has accepted are wild compared to the beliefs of previous Cleons. The last dawn that we saw was the cause of a huge rift between the then day and dusk because of his changes. However, this dawn seems more of a traditionalist than the current day who is going to get married, which is clearly him grasping at straws to maintain power. Also, him sleeping with Demerzel is not something that I, as a viewer, expected, especially since we know Demerzel as the nurturer and care of the Cleons, but not as their lover, because she knew them as children. I also wonder if it's possible that Demerzel has an ulterior motive for doing this, especially since Day mentions that she was the one who initiated. A third juxtaposition is how much the Foundation has expanded versus what we, the viewer, remember, and seeing the new characters there versus the ones that we had last season. I feel like altering the source of their genetics actually had a better payoff than luring Don away and replacing him, although the rebels who did it are not around to see this. I'm assuming that the Dusk of last season also had tampered genetics as well, because I feel like he would have gotten rid of the others and been the source based on how he felt about last season's Don when they discovered his differences. This is random, but I've been thinking about this since season one. Since Gale is from a water planet, did she and the people there evolve in a way to where they could hold their breath longer? Another thing that I noticed that I probably should have noticed in the first season is the significance of the color blue. So the other day, I read this children's book with my kids called Blue, A History of the Color as Deep as the Sea and as Wide as the Water. And it gave a lot of interesting facts about the color blue and how rare it was to make, and also how it was considered a color of royalty. So that's how I ended up making this connection. So the color of paint that the camera zoomed in on when the paints were presented as gifts was blue, and they did talk about the rarity of it. And I also thought about Empire wearing blue and was curious if there was a reason as to why the costume designers styled them with this color often. Day seems to have the most vibrant blue since he's the most powerful, while the light blue represents the rising power of dawn and the navy blue, the fading power of dusk. Queen Seraph wears purple and blue, which is also a royal color. Dust mentions that the blue could also be like the color of a storm cloud, which to me could also represent Queen Seraph and the changes that she might make. Queen Seraph is the character that I'm most intrigued by currently. She, to me, clearly could dismantle Empire in some way, which seems obvious to Dawn and Dusk, but Day doesn't seem to care, and maybe to some extent he doesn't, and wants a different way to have a legacy rather than just being another Cleon. Another question I have is how is the other Harry faring in the vault? And are the two Harrys connected in any way, or are they existing individually? As far as the ending, I'm assuming Harry emerged from the Prime Radiant so angry at Gale because of her individual actions. They've probably caused society to drift away from the plan that Harry saw, and maybe the cause of so many potential crises. Overall, I feel like this episode is a solid start to the second season of the show. The season did not start with a wow factor, but I feel like we often forget that eventually getting that wow factor takes building, and at this point, we needed to slow down to see where our characters and their society are. There is so much potential for it to be amazing, especially if our three storylines, Gale and Salvor, the Foundation, and Empire, will interact this season. What are your opinions on this episode? Comment down below. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.